Thursday was a massive day for Assassin's Creed Shadows because we had the previews release, a ton of new gameplay and updates, and a new story trailer. And we'll go over all the juicy bits in this video, but the main question is Shadows looking promising? Hi folks, Higgs here and welcome back to the channel. So a ton of previews dropped yesterday, giving a vast amount of opinions, some negative and some positive, plus a huge stream from Joe Raptor revealing loads of new gameplay and that extremely cool story trailer. So we're going to start off with the gameplay, and it was great to see as we get a real feel of things to come. One thing to note though is the footage we're all seeing is from a game build last November apparently. At first we get a look at how synchronization will work, and I have to say the world looks absolutely stunning. I like how the camera pans out and then you can manually observe the surroundings, taking in just how bloody gorgeous this game is and looking at undiscovered locations as well. It just really gives you a sense of discovering stuff yourself instead of just looking down on a map, clicking a waypoint and going to it. All of this footage was captured on a high-end PC, but no doubt the PS5, the PS5 Pro and the Xbox Series X will look good. We then get a solid look at the map, and it is huge. Only a little bit of water is eating up the map this time, so there's a lot of land to explore here, and no doubt we'll find some secrets along the way. If we look here, Joe Raptor is in Harima and is on a mission to meet the Renga Master. When he spans the map, we see other regions like Tamba, which is level 35, Wakasa, and the Iga province where Naoe is from. The max level in Assassin's Creed Shadows is also 60, which will no doubt rise when the expansion drops. And when looking at the map, we can see the compass, and when this is full, we can change the seasons. Also, you can select Naoe or Yasuke from the map menu as shown here. You press the required button and you fast travel as the opposite character to what you have. We also get a funny clip here, and this just shows how useless Yasuke is at any form of agility because he can't even dive from a sync point and he just falls, and we've never had this in the Assassin's Creed series before. Luckily, we don't have full damage in Shadows this time round. Also, Yasuke can't really climb unless he has beams to grab onto, which I do get because of his character, but it does suck that little bit to be honest. The skill tree is also a little different. There are 6 main skills and each has its own skill tree. And if we look at these images here, Yasuke's skill tree is first up. We've got the long katana, naginata, kanabo, teppo, samurai and bow. And for Naoe, there is the katana, kusarigama, tanto, tools, shinobi and assassin. And when you click on each of them, it opens up its own separate skill tree. So there is a lot of variation there as well, which is great for different playstyles and keeping the game feeling fresh. We also get to look at the safe houses and access storage along with our scouts, which we will use to complete different objectives. You can upgrade the scouts, but you have different tasks you need to do in order to upgrade them. You also have contracts as well, and Joe Raptor did say that he thinks it's a good way to level up fast, and as we know, sometimes you do get power checked in Assassin's Creed games. I'm playing through Odyssey right now and I know I'm having that issue, having to get through loads of side quests. So hopefully it isn't as bad in Shadows. In the footage, I think it's quite clear that Naoe has the better movement and combat. From her combat moves, executions and parkour, it all seems quick and smooth. I think it's evident players will have a lot of fun with her. Yasuke is a big dude, so clearly he can't move as well, but he can use guns, which might be good. For me though, I think I'll stick with Naoe as her gameplay looks much more fun at the minute, but things can change when we get our hands on the game. This is only a 5-hour segment we're seeing of gameplay. We also get a little look at some vendor gear and the kind of stats we can expect, with an emphasis in Shadows on critical hits. Now this vendor is only level 25, but it might come in handy, especially if you have a bit of gear that is lagging, plus you'll probably get some cool perks and stats to help you through. I always think in games like this that it's definitely worth investing in the vendors, because like I've said, it will bump you up that little bit and just make leveling up that little bit easier and facing higher tier enemies. We get a better look at Naoe's gear here as well. I think the gear we've seen looks really well designed. We've got some legendary pieces like the Tools Master Mask, Shinobi's Fury, Silent Shinobi Hood, and if we look closer, we can engrave a perk once we've upgraded our Hideout's Forge. And I like game mechanics like that as it gives the grind room meat something to chase. And I love this legendary hood, the Swift Shinobi Hood. The red and black go so hard, Plus it's got this really cool perk, slow down time when detected, which will come in handy a bunch, and the Swift Shinobi's robes also has some cool stats with this one, plus 2 health segments removed on air assassinations. We also get a sneak peek at some gear for Yasuke as well. We've got the Destroyer Samurai armor, which reduces impact from enemy attacks. The helmet gives 10% damage output for 10% health missing. Not my favourite type of perk, to be honest. And the Helmet of Legendary Samurai. Heal increases critical chance by 15% for 5 seconds, and with critical hits playing a vital role in shadows, this may be a good perk to have. Overall, I think the gear we have been shown looks really nice and authentic to the game and the time it is set in. I also think this bit of armour reminds me of the Knights Templar a little bit. I'm also happy to say transmog is in the game, so you don't have to worry about sacrificing that bit of gear you like the look of, which is a great addition to the game, as people love fashion and how they look in these types of games. Throughout the footage, we see various bits of fighting from both protagonists, and it all looks very good. I love Naoe's assassinations, and Yasuke is just a brute, and some players may prefer that style of play. Just because he doesn't look good in clips like this in a preview, doesn't mean he's not going to be great to use when the full game comes out. The story length will be somewhere between Origins and Odyssey, so roughly 40 hours, which is great to hear. For me, I don't want a 100-hour story anymore, as that can feel tedious, and I think devs add more filler content in their games, and sometimes that can affect the quality. Previews also hit as well, and there were a lot, so I will brush over a couple, but most of them were positive. IGN really enjoyed their time with it, saying developer Ubisoft Quebec so far delivers on its long-awaited new setting and compelling protagonists in its return to a massive open-world Assassin's Creed RPG. Ubisoft may have also cracked the code on the role-playing element with its 2 unique protagonists, something the series has struggled to present in a way that hasn't muddied the narrative waters. They also go on to say, the world of Assassin's Creed Shadows is massive, but thankfully not to the ridiculous size of Valhalla. That said, plenty of opportunities were packed in this province, and the viewpoints to observe nearby points of interest helped point me in the right direction. A general theme I found compelling was how Shadows emphasised harmonising with the open world, a cultural element the developers wanted to highlight with the Japanese setting. It's really nice to hear that Ubisoft have been working on the RPG elements, because in previous titles like Odyssey, it did feel a bit off and I can't explain it. I am currently playing through that game for the first time at the minute, so I've not finished it, but it just feels a little bit off. And Valhalla was just too big, so to condense that down but still have the province feeling full of things to do will keep players occupied. They also say Yasuke and Naoe also represent the different extremes of Assassin's Creed's combat and stealth experiences, which have also seen clear upgrades across the board in Shadows. For combat, there's a heightened need for dodging and parrying strikes, crucial to piercing through armour to deliver a killing blow. It injects Ghost of Tsushima's offense and defense style of swordplay, but it also has familiar AC combat skills such as power grabs and the always funny kick move I use plenty of times. The setting of Japan was a setting that the developers have wanted to make for some time, and according to game director Charles Benoit, they also saw an opportunity to have the series lean further into its stealth action roots. Now, I'm telling you this, if the combat is anything like Ghost of Tsushima, I'd be a very happy man. Assassin's Creed combat can sometimes feel a little bit like a button mash, but having to think about your attacks and defences is a really cool change. And they finish off with, I generally felt pleased with the more thoughtful approach to combat. However, it also comes with more challenges, which unexpectedly made some of the encounters in the game feel a bit more difficult. The game also struggled to present fights with multiple foes accurately, and it can be easy to get overwhelmed by enemies coming in off screen. Still, when the new combat in Shadow hits, it certainly does hit. What impressed me most with Shadows was the revamped stealth gameplay, which appropriately incorporates elements from Ubisoft's other stealth action series, Splinter Cell. With the new visibility meter, you can see how open you are. Furthermore, there's a greater emphasis on light and darkness. You can even snuff out candles to add some cover. My favourite addition is the ability to go prone, which, as you can expect, is a game changer for stealth. Playing stealth with Naoe was so satisfying, and it does well to showcase just how much that gameplay style has improved. So snuffing out candles for some more cover is just a ridiculously good detail to have in the game. And from what I've watched from the other previews, the details in Seasons are also super in depth. Game Rant also went hands on and had this to say. Anyone who has been concerned about Assassin's Creed Shadows after 2 delays is justified. While delays are usually good for games, multiple delays can be a sign of a rocky development cycle and the inevitable release of a bad, if not broken, game. But as the Shigeru Miyamoto quote goes, a delayed game is eventually good, but a rushed game is forever bad. Shadows is not rushing to the end, recently pushing its release date to March the 20th, and Ubisoft Quebec seems confident in the game. After playing it, I too feel more confident in it than ever. And they have this to say about the prologue. Without going too far into spoilers, AC Shadow's opening sets the stage for both Yasuke's introduction to the samurai and Naoe's entry into the shinobi life. This also served as the tutorial for both Yasuke's brutality and Naoe's nimble approach to exploration and combat. The difference between the two could be felt immediately, but 2 major things stood out during this time. First, Shadows is a more cinematic experience. The prologue featured several cutscenes, and it felt like there were more cutscenes than gameplay. A Ubisoft dev would explain to me that Shadows features over 700 cutscenes, and overall, the visual direction feels in line with modern Japanese movies, quickly immersing players into the Japan setting of Shadows. Now, delays are not a bad thing in most cases, and it seems Quebec were right to pull back the game. They tweaked the story and probably a crap ton of other things, but so far from what we are hearing, it seems to be paying off. I also have no issue with cutscenes as long as they are an essential part of the story and not some bland filler content. If Ubisoft feels it's in line with modern Japanese movies, then that can't be a bad thing. They finish off their preview by saying, "I've been waiting for Shadows ever since AC3 first teased it with a Torii Gate, and Japan has been one of the franchise's most requested settings. The wait and demand put on a lot of pressure on Ubisoft, but after 6 hours with the game, my higher than average anticipation has skyrocketed. My qualms have been squashed and my expectations have been exceeded. If the full version of the game lives up to the 6 I've played, then it seems the upcoming open world Assassin's Creed game is going to cast a long shadow for future entries." Quite a good ending statement there, guys. It's looking promising. Now, I picked 2 YouTubers, and one of them is Luke Stevens, as he was lucky enough to have played, and for someone who can be quite critical, he was super surprised that he enjoyed his time as much as he did. He said this about Seasons and the weather. Seasons get 40 minutes of playtime between them in game. When the compass is full, you can change the seasons yourself, at which point the weather and foliage changes. The fields see their plants grow or die if you're going from summer to fall to winter. Also, if you're in winter, ponds will freeze so you can no longer swim in them to assassinate targets. Snowstorms become commonplace and NPCs act differently as well. Hearing that makes me excited, as this makes the world feel way more dynamic and alive. He goes on to say, if you clear one castle 1 hour into the game, if you're 5 hours in and come back to the same castle, it will feel different because the enemies will be different, they behave differently, and the terrain will be different. You can't hide in bushes because the leaves will be gone, and if there's a rainstorm, AI will act differently because high level enemies with nice armour will stay inside high up to look over the grounds and stay dry whilst the grunts stay outside. He says graphically it's one of the best he's ever seen, mentioning ray tracing, and says it's hard to think of something that doesn't look really good inside the game. Overall, he thinks they're on track for the best stealth mechanics ever, along with graphics, and it is extremely ambitious, but he does question side quests because there was no side content at the preview. Also, he feels Naoe will be phenomenal, but Yasuke will feel like the weird second character. And that, if you look across loads of previews, you'll hear that quite a lot, that Yasuke just doesn't seem to fit in. But again, they do say it is only a preview. We need to wait for the full reviews and when the game comes out and we got our hands on it. But everyone is different. Each player prefers different playstyles. It doesn't mean that Yasuke is going to be rubbish. It just means that the previewers didn't feel he fitted in as well as Naoe. And last up is Skill Up. Someone I respect in the gaming space because I think his reviews are really fair, and if he doesn't like something, he's not afraid to say. Now, he wasn't as positive as the others, and he does clarify that he's not the biggest fan of the modern Assassin's Creed games. And his title on his YouTube video reads, "I was not having fun with Assassin's Creed Shadows." He says there wasn't any honeymoon period with Shadows, as he hit a number of core design and narrative issues quickly, and he doesn't feel splitting the characters with 2 different playstyles has worked because the Assassin's Creed fantasy doesn't align, and only Naoe has access to the AC fundamentals, which are combat, stealth and parkour, and as a result the game works with her but not with Yasuke. Plus his combat isn't that good. He also says forcing a character change to get the job done doesn't work. And what he meant by that was, in his video, he was climbing up a building with Yasuke, and then halfway up, he then says on screen, oh, I bet now I can climb the rest of this. And that was the subtle prompt to say, I now need to get another character in to complete the job. So I kind of get where he's coming from there. He does say it is a good experience to do the same mission in 2 different ways though, but he was bored playing as Yasuke and it doesn't work, but with Naoe it does, and when he reviews it, he'll play with her solely. Also, he said the writing feels lifeless and dull. He says fair play to Ubisoft though for trying something new, and that the full product might be better than the 5 hours he played. So there wasn't hardly any positives from his video, which is why I've just kept that short and sweet, but it's good to hear someone else's perspective. So yeah, not great from SkillUp, but I always like to put a different take in the preview roundup. But guys, what do you make of the gameplay, the story trailer and the previews? Please let me know down in the comments. If it isn't your kind of game, that is absolutely fine. You don't need to scream to the world to let everyone know. Just move on and enjoy the other games that you like playing. But guys, this video has gone on way too long now. If you stayed till the end, thank you so much. If you've enjoyed the video in any form, please hit the like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe for more games, news and reviews. But until next time, take care and I'll see you on the next video, guys.